The story starts in New York City, where John Wick and his pit bull have sought safety at the Bowery King. Bowery King strolls in to ask as to whether he is all set to go after the high table while he is hitting a board until his knuckles bleed. John just agrees. John goes to Morocco, where he seeks after men riding a horse working for the elder. Subsequent to killing those people, John asks about his ring, however he is informed that it is no longer there. Prior to leaving, John proceeds to execute the elder. Back in New York, the Harbinger gathers Winston and Sharon to see the Marquis de Graymont, who has been dispatched by the high table. They have learned of the elder's demise and the Marquis berates Winston for neglecting to kill John. Accordingly, the Marquis condemns and explodes the New York Continental. Winston is excommunicated, and to make matters worse, the Marquis shoots Sharon in the chest. Winston remains by his perishing friend's side, asserting it ought to have been him. In Paris, a blind assassin named Cain stands in the park while his daughter Mia plays the violin. The Marquis tasks Cain to go seek after John. Cain claims to be retired, however the Marquis undermines Mia's life in the event that Cain opposes the high table's orders. John goes to the Osaka Continental, which is controlled by an old colleague, Shimazu Koji, where his daughter, Akira, functions as an concierge. Koji meets John on the rooftop, promising to give him shelter secretly, regardless of Akira's question of John's presence. Chitty, the Marquis' right-hand man, comes not long after with his assassin team. While trying to allure John, Koji's men show up and engage in the high table assassins by terminating arrows into the darkness. At the point when the hit guys arrive at the rooftop, John pulls his pistol and starts doing what he excels at, killing. While Koji's men can repel the most of the high table, assassin Cain emerges and starts his own body count, laying traps to empower him to hear where his targets are going prior to killing them with his blade and rifle. In the meantime, Akira joins the battle and kills a portion of Chitty's men, yet she is shot and harmed. John helps her and Koji in escaping, while at the same time proceeding to fight extra assailants, incorporating numerous with nunchucks. Cain finds him and both of them are lifelong companions, so Cain is reluctant to pursue John, yet does as such for the good of Mia. John and Cain had a brief fight before John get away. Mr. Nobody and his German Shepherd are close during the gunfights, and he kills a portion of the shooters seeking after John. He wants the contract on John's head too, but claims that the ongoing hit of $20 million is lacking, so he is as of now helping John. As Koji and Akira are running out, they experience Cain and Koji are likewise lifelong companions, however Koji will not permit Cain to pursue John, so they participate in a blade duel. At the point when apparently Koji is permitted to leave yet denies it, Akira grasps her dad's body as he dies and attempts to take his sharp edge to kill Cain, however he cautions her not to do so she doesn't face a similar outcome as her dad, and he vows to see her once more. Akira shows up at the train station and sees John, who faults him for her dad's passing. She takes steps to kill Cain in the event that he doesn't. Winston meets with Bowery King, since the two of them realize that their closeness to John makes them targets. The Harbinger confronts the Marquis about senseless slaughter at the Osaka Continental, however the Marquis demands killing John Wick, yet in addition destroying the idea of him as a distant and unkillable individual. Mr. Nobody then visits the Marquis and wants a $23 million contract to kill John. The Marquis replies by stabbing his hand and driving him to pick between removing the blade and removing his hand to figure out where his goal lay. Mr. Nobody takes his hand out, cutting through his fingers, and the Marquis agrees to go comply. John visits Winston at Sharon's burial place and communicates his feelings toward his companion's passing. Winston needs to fight back against the Marquis, so he illuminates John that to be let out of the high table, he should challenge the Marquis to a duel. In spite of the way that high table duels are viewed as fantasies, John visits Killa nightclub, where he meets Cain and Mr. Nobody. Subsequent to catching John, the three settle down for a game with Killa, in which Killa cheats prior to sending his men after the three assassins' killers, while Cain and Nobody stand their ground against the goons. John seeks after Killa through the club, surrounded by unaware club attendees. Killa uses his power and weight against John as he cuts his neck with a card and fights him. Killa's fighters seek after John and meet with inevitable lethal outcomes. Winston visits the Marquis with John's official challenge paperwork for the battle. Despite the Marquis fights, Winston advises him that he is bound to the high table and its traditions, subsequently he should go along. That's what moreover Winston wants, assuming that John wins. Winston would no longer be suspended and that his Continental be uncondemned and rebuilt as though under his stewardship. The Marquis then again reminds Winston that he will be John's second, so assuming John dies on, so will he. As the Harbinger directs them, John enters to meet with the Marquis to arrange the provisions of the duel. They will fight with guns at the Cour in Paris at sunrise. In the event that any of them neglects to show up by the cutoff time, it would be viewed as a relinquishment and justification for execution. Cain will be the Marquis' second in command, and he offers to release him and his daughter in return for killing John. John strolls to a church and sits to offer his respects to his wife Helene. Cain greets him there, informing him about Mia and what he stands to lose. Afterward, John meets Winston and Bowery King, who gives him another rifle and indestructible outfit. The Harbinger helps the Marquis to remember what might occur assuming John killed him at the high table. To ensure that John doesn't show up at the duel on time, the Marquis dispatches Chitty and his men to find him. A radio DJ likewise informs different assassin killers who are listening that a contract has been presented for any individual who can kill John before dawn. Many assassin killers seek after John as he advances toward the Sika Quay. He battles shooters in the streets, even jumping into traffic around the Arc de Triomphe, and shooting or letting them to be hit via cars. The high table tracks his developments, which prompts different assassin killers seeking after him. John enters a warehouse loaded with nasty individuals and releases a barrage of explosive shots at them. Simultaneously, Mr. Nobody aids the capture of some of the assassin killers and calls the Marquis request a bigger payout. The Marquis in the end consents to a $40 million contract, drawing out a more desperate hired gunman. John ultimately gets it to the stairs leading the way to the soccer center, killing various more professional killers before Chitty shows up and thumps him right down the stairs. Cain seems to help John in killing Chitty's men. Mr. Nobody shows up, arguing with Chitty in light of the fact that he threw his dog into traffic. The Marquis understands this too late after John blown out his brains. The Harbinger then, at that point, expresses that both John and Cain are not longer bound by the high table. John strolls down the steps, momentarily thinking about Helen and murmuring her name prior to stooping over. Winston and Bowery King buried John Wick next to Helen with his headstone expressing loving husband, as he asked. Bowery King asks as to whether he thinks John is in heaven or hell, and Winston answers who knows. Bowery King keeps on watching after John's dog, as the two leave. Cain goes to Paris to reconcile with his daughter in a post-credits sequence, yet is confronted by the enraged Akira, who draws out a blade. Thank you for watching.